Phagocytosis is actually a special form of endocytosis in which cells uses a large endocytic vesicles called phagosomes to ingest large particles such as other microorganisms or dead cells or any other particulate matter. Fine, what's the functional significance of this process of phagocytosis then? Phagocytosis is actually a form of feeding in many organisms like protozoans, they actually take up the large particles into phagosomes, and these phagosomes then eventually end up in lysosomes, and these products are subsequently digested in the cytosol itself. So this is actually it happens in short. So but what we are going to look in detail here is actually the process through which certain cells in our body known as phagocytes recognize different microbes present in our body and eliminate it, and also eliminate other waste cells or any other senescent cells in our body. The two major phagocytes in our body are neutrophils, which is a granulocyte, and macrophages. And phagocytosis is a triggered process. And what do we mean by this triggered process? By triggered process, we actually mean that it requires the activation of certain receptors on its membrane that actually transmits the signals to the cell's interior, and this in fact initiates the response of phagocytosis. So it's actually triggered by certain responses or stimulus that we apply on the outer aspect or on the external environment of the cell. And before diving deep into phagocytosis as such, let's see what is actually the process or what actually is the mechanism of our innate immunity towards any invading pathogen. Okay, so if you look at here, this diagram, an invading pathogen is normally recognized by the phagocytes by something known as PAMPs. That is the pathogen associated molecular patterns, which are specialized molecular patterns present on the surfaces of any pathogen, and that has been conserved in evolutionarily to be specific for the specific pathogen, which is exploited by our immune system to recognize that particular pathogen from our host, from the host itself. So these are actually recognized by the PAMP, recognized pattern recognition receptor, which is known as PRRS, by our phagocytes, and this initiates the so-called triggered process of phagocytosis within these phagocytes, and this engulf these particles and make endocytic vesicle known as phagosome, and which is further processed. The other mechanisms are through secretion of antimicrobial peptides and through opsonization. Opsonization is nothing but coating of the pathogens, and this coating is through certain molecules like IgG and C3b, and these are known as opsonin molecules. Those opsonin molecules recognize and coat the pathogens and then make them easy to be identified by the phagocytes and make them easy to get engulfed. And complement proteins as in such can also, apart from opsonization, can also lyse the protein themselves. This table is actually a summary of all those various mechanisms that phagocytes recruit or use to clear the microbes. Acidification is by changing the pH of the surroundings in which the microbes is present, so that making it unable to thrive in that harsh situation. And the other two are mainly intracellular processes. One is oxygen dependent and the whereas other are oxygen independent. One is through oxygen derived products and other from the nitrogen products. And as we discussed, the secretion of antimicrobial peptides and antimicrobial enzymes. So now let's dive in detail into the topic in such. Okay, so first, what are the steps of phagocytosis? Broadly, the steps of phagocytosis are three. First is a recognition and attachment of the microbes to certain receptors which are present on the phagocytes. As I said, phagocytosis is a triggered process, and this signaling from these receptors then carry out certain processes that lead to the engulfment of the microbe and formation of an endocytic vesicle, which is known as phagosome. So the second step is engulfment. And the third process is the killing and the degradation of the microbes within it. However, those processes that involve in the killing and the degradation of the microbes is through secretion of certain enzymes which are present in the granules. And these contents of the granules can also be released into the extracellular fluid and can kill those bacteria. So let's now discuss each step in some greater detail. So the first step is recognition and attachment of the microbes by our phagocytes. So how do they do that? As I earlier mentioned, we have our PAMs, that is PAMPs, pathogen associated molecular patterns, which are present on the surfaces of the microbes, and these are recognized by our PRRS, PAMS recognition receptors, which are present on the phagocytes. So now, how will we classify all those receptors which are present on the phagocytes? They are actually divided into the ones which are actually said, which are PRRs and opsonal receptors. As I would have actually mentioned earlier, that these opsonal receptors are to recognize those opsonins which are coated over the microbes by the process of opsonization by certain other molecules. So for phagocytosis, the phagocytes need to recognize even the molecular patterns of specific compounds present on the pathogen, which is through the recognition of the PAMs, and also receptors for recognizing those coated molecules that recognize those pathogens, right? So our phagocytes actually have receptors for both of these. So we can broadly classify the receptors into PRRs and opsin receptors. For the certain subtypes of PRRs are C-type lectin domain containing receptors and scavenge receptors. So what are these two? Lectin are actually carbohydrate binding proteins. Carbohydrate binding proteins are those certain conditions which contain those carbohydrate binding domain within them, which enable them to bind to certain carbohydrates. These receptors actually have certain domains that enable them to bind to the certain sugar molecules or sugar containing molecules on the surfaces of the microbes. You know that bacteria majorly contains proteoglycans as their cell wall on their cell wall surface, right? So certain specific molecules or carbohydrate molecules which are present on the surface of the microbes can be identified through C-type leptin-like receptors on the phagocytes. So then what are scavenge receptors? Scavenge receptors are first identified on the macrophages that actually endocytose those LDL molecules that are either oxidized or acetylated and hence can't bind with the conventional LDL receptors. So these unuseful LDL molecules will be scavenged or will be destroyed by our macrophages. Moving to the next step, that is the engulfment. After a particle is bound to the phagocyte receptors, there occurs the extension of the cytoplasm known as the pseudopods around the bacteria or the microbe, and the plasma membrane pinches off around here, joins together on the opposite side to form a vesicle, and this vesicle, as I mentioned earlier, is known as the phagosome, and it encloses this particle. And the next step is this phagosome then fuses with the lysosomal granules, resulting in discharge of granules contents into the phagolysosome. And also to add, during this process, the phagocyte may also release granules directly into the extracellular space. And this process of recognition of the microbe and then extending the pseudopods around is actually a quite complex process and involves various intracellular signaling. So let's show some light upon it. After the recognition by the receptors which are present on the surface of the phagocytes, these receptors actually signals certain special proteins which are present inside. These proteins mainly belong to the family of Rho, and these are GTPase enzymes and other Rho GEFs, which are guanosine exchange factors. And activation of these specific enzymes actually switches on the kinase activity. It switches on the kinase activity of several kinases, which include several local PI kinases. Okay, what are PI? PI are actually phosphoinositide kinases. So activation of PI kinases actually lead to the local accumulation of different species of PIs. Species of phosphoinositides. These phosphoinositides are kind of diverse that a specific phosphoinositide actually guides the specific steps in a phagosome. So the ordered generation and the consumption of specific phosphoinositides actually guides each and every specific steps in a phagosome formation. For example, in a stage where there is an extension of the pseudopods and we need to seal off the pseudopods to form a phagosome, so for which the actin filaments which are present over here at the base should be depolymerized. So what actually happens is during this stage of phagosome formation, a certain PI3 kinase will actually get activated, which converts a species of PI, that is PI which is phosphorylated at its 4th and 5th position through the action of PI3 kinase is also getting phosphorylated at its 3rd position. And this local accumulation of this specific PI actually guides the closure of the phagosome and the formation or the invagination of the phagosome. And so the final mechanism that is actually guiding this events is that there is a local accumulation of a specific PIs, and these PIs actually initiate actin polymerization, and this actin polymerization modifies the cytoskeleton, and this modification of the cytoskeleton helps in the engulfment or change in the structure of the cell in a whole, which helps in the engulfment of the particle or the microbe. And now into the last step of phagocytosis, that is the killing or the degradation of the microbe that has been ingested into the phagosome. And this can be either intracellular or extracellular. But the major part is through intracellular mechanism, which is the most important part. Extracellular means happens when there is a phagocytic challenge or when there is an inability of the phagocyte to engulf certain kind of microbes. So now let's concentrate more about the intracellular part. We can actually define or classify those mechanisms either as oxygen dependent or oxygen independent mechanisms. Oxygen dependent mainly includes our dependent mechanisms actually include our reactive oxygen intermediates, and we have our reactive nitrogen intermediates. And our oxygen independent mechanisms, as we already discussed, is through secretion of certain antimicrobial peptides or by the help of recruiting any other cytokines, and by the use of certain hydrolytic enzymes which degrade the cell wall or degrade any parts of the microbe. Let's now stress more upon these oxygen dependent mechanisms. ROS or reactive oxygen species are actually produced within the lysosome and phagolysosome. They can act on the ingested particles without damaging the host cells. So first is the NADPH phagosome oxidase or NADPH oxidase. We'll look more detail into its assembly later. First of all, let's look how different reactive oxygen species are formed. First, oxygen with the help of NADPH oxisome oxidase forms oxygen free radical, which is then further converted into oxygen peroxide by superoxide dismutase, and it can be also then converted into our hypochlorous acid with the help of myeloperoxidase and the addition of any halogen. This hydrogen peroxide can also get formed into hydroxyl radicals. So all these reactive oxygen species or oxygen derived free radicals actually bind to and modify the cellular lipids, proteins and nucleic acid, and thus eventually destroy all such microbes. And so do how our host cells escape this kind of very stressful conditions. They actually do have many antioxidant mechanisms like our superoxide dismutase enzyme, the enzyme catalase, which detoxifies H2O2. We have a glutathione peroxidase, and we have certain serum proteins like ceruloplasmin, transferrin, etc. Moving on to reactive nitrogen species, which include our nitrous oxide, which is a gas, soluble gas, and nitrogen dioxide, and then peroxy nitrate. So stressing on to their synthesis, it's actually synthesized by nitric oxide synthase. Actually, nitric oxide synthase has three subtypes. One is endothelial nitric oxide synthase, neuronal nitric oxide synthase, endothelial nitric oxide synthase ENOS, and we have our neuronal nitric oxide synthase, and we have our inducible nitric oxide synthase. Inducible nitric oxide synthase is the type that is involved in our microbial killing. It is induced when our macrophages and neutrophils are activated by cytokines like INF, gamma, or any other microbial products. So now moving into the process, in macrophages, this NO reacts with superoxide anion to generate the highly reactive free radical known as peroxynitrite. So this, by similar mechanism of our ROS, also attacks our lipids, proteins, and attacks and lipids, protein, nucleic acid of the microbe. So our reactive oxygen and nitrogen species thus have a overlapping action kinds. So now let's see some in detailed picture of how this actually all happens. Let's consider a neutrophil, for example. And our neutrophil has two specific main type of granules, which is known as the specific or secondary granules, which are the smaller one. The specific are the small granules, and we have our large primary azurophilic granules. And our primary granules contains lysozymes, collagenases, gelatinases, lactoferrins, plasminogen activators, histaminases, and ALPs, etc. Whereas our large azurophilic granules contains myeloperoxidase and another bacterial side factors, so something like that. So and finally we have our lysosome. Lysosome contains hydrolytic enzymes which degrade the bacterial products. So all these fuse to the phagosome, which has been engulfed from the surface. And now what you are going to stress upon is our NADPH oxidase. In a resting state, the resting state of a neutrophil without being getting activated by any of the microgenic receptors, any of the receptors by the microbes, the components of the NADPH oxidase are actually located in the plasma membrane and also in the cytosol. After getting the signals from certain receptors and through activation of the certain signaling pathways, these components of the NADPH oxidase are actually translocated to the surface of the phagosome. And this transfer produces an active NADPH oxidase, which transfers an electron from the FAD cofactor to the molecular oxygen, forming a superoxide ion, the O2 minus, which is in the blue color here, and other oxygen free radicals in the lumen of the phagosome. And then you can see the potassium and the hydrogen ions are then drawn into the phagolysosome to neutralize a charged superoxide ion and increasing acidification of the vesicle, which doesn't suit the growth of microbes. And the acidification dissociates granule enzymes such as cathepsin G elastases from their proteoglycan matrix, leading to their cleavage and hence their activation by our lysosomal proteases. So what this actually all signifies, within the granules and within the lysosome, the certain cofactors which are responsible for the antimicrobial action are actually separated. So the collaborative or the synergetic joining of all those into the phagolysosome actually activates or provides a condition for the activation of the all antimicrobial factors, and hence lead to the destruction of the microbe only in the phagosome.